Okay. Half an hour. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Tome Raider Classics. I'm Ollie Johnson. I'm here with Dan Murgatroyd. How you doing, Dan?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Ah, as expected when wrestling with temperamental software and technology.
Yeah, so we were delayed somewhat by the fact that one of the programs used decided it needed to update,
And then
which of
wouldn't,
course then
because it kept crashing.
would,
I use OBS, of course.
it wouldn't update, and then also decided to erase all the settings you had before the update.
Well, no, it wasn't that. For the Ghost of Yotei stream we did last night, in order to properly see the messages on my phone, I changed the settings so that the messages came on a background, which, like, obviously for this one they don't, because then it would cover up the setting. And I was just trying to, like, the last 10 minutes or so was me just trying to get rid of that background, and there being no save settings button for some reason.
Because technology.
Yeah. Anyway, this week we read Sherlock Holmes: The Valley of Fear. I quite like this one actually. Like,
Yeah, I think it benefits of after having like what is it? The Return of Sherlock Holmes, the Casebook of Sherlock Holmes. Uh, yeah, at least the Return of Sherlock Holmes since we've had a novel, and
uh,
possibly the case because I think Hound of the Baskervilles was between that and the Casebook of Sherlock Holmes.
yeah,
So it's good to get to a longer story again.
yeah. I
And
enjoy the longer stories more generally. I guess because they've got more time to, like, actually give us reasons to care about what's happening.
yeah, yeah, and oh, what was I going to say? It structure wise, this one is also different to a lot of the stories we've read, with only Study in Scarlet having a similar structure where we have an interlinked but separated narrative by time
Yeah,
as the second half of the story.
like, we solve the case in the first half, and then the second half flashes back to why that case needed to happen in the first place.
Yes, and again, it flashes back to America, like
Yeah,
it did in the Study in Scarlet.
yeah,
And again features an organization that is a bit in American society.
yeah. In
Well,
this case,
technically two in this one. In this case, because there was the one that is the obvious, which is the Pinkertons,
yeah. Who are the good
and then there's
guys in this story? In case you,
yeah, and then there's also a fair bit of an organization that causes a lot of people to have a bit of an about them, but because they're the Freemasons, which conspiracy theories and non-conspiracy theories it is all sort of tell that they're sort of like they're up to something. They just disagree on whether it is bank fraud or controlling the country.
yeah.
Yeah,
Honestly,
and this
I don't know thing one about the Freemasons in real life. I assumed they were like I think for much of my life I assumed they were made up.
yeah from my understanding of it on like what few sources I can see that aren't specifically put out by them or specifically critical of them.
Yeah,
The Freemasons started out as sort of a guild with charitable intent, uh, and then it sort of spiraled into sort of more secret society practices, some of which has interestingly been adopted by the Mormon Church to help control their members. So
yeah,
it's hard to say for sure, or how much like the idea that Freemasons band together and commit crime or try to take over the world, like Pinky and the Brain.
Pinky and the Brain. Oh,
Yeah, but yes, but we'll get more into that as the story goes on, because we start in 221B Baker Street,
as ever.
but
And Sherlock throws shade at Watson in a way that I find quite funny, because I can't remember the actual line, but it's like, Holmes, I've been thinking, and it's like I should keep at it.
yeah, see, I've got the thing. But I was going to say, one thing to remember about this one is it becomes clear, quite obvious, that this is set before the final problem. So before the defeat of Moriarty and Holmes'
Yeah.
supposed death. So he talks about Moriarty and Sebastian Moran, and in a slight problem of this being a prequel written much later, he's making referencing to these characters that the implied time frame Watson doesn't know about yet, and reacts with in surprise to learn that these people even live and exist in later stories.
Yeah.
Which is the slight problem of a prequel full story.
Yeah. Although I can imagine if this was released immediately before the final problem, the anticipation there would have been good.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's interesting. It also doesn't make any mention of Mary and sort of like has Holmes. Watson is breakfasting with Holmes, so Watson goes on this trip without having to make any pretense for his surgery or to let Mary know that he's going away. So it feels like it's either Arthur Conan Doyle just could not be bothered to deal with those details, or this is set a fair bit before the final problem. Like this feels like it could be possibly even before the sign of the fall.
Now, the first exchange of the story is, "I'm inclined to think," said I should do so," Sherlock Holmes remarks impatiently.
Yeah. It's just like, and then it goes to internal monologue. I believe that I am one of the most long suffering of mortals, but admit that I was annoyed at his sardonic interruption. Really, Holmes? You are a little trying at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that bit, but all soon forgotten because Holmes is, well, absorbed in a case as he often is, or like pulling on a thread would be more accurate.
Yeah, because he's just received a letter. It's just sort of like, it is Porlock's writing, thoughtfully, and Watson rightfully inquires as to what on earth is Porlock. It's just sort of like, oh, it's just someone who has written to me before who was in the employ of Moriarty. Yeah, it turns out
I had
that
to
at
keep
this
reminding
point,
myself that Moriarty's alive at this point.
yeah, yeah, because the organization is effectively dismantled by the end of the adventure of the empty house, with Moran gone as well as Moriarty. But yeah, it turns out Sherlock has had a mole who will pass some small bits of information onto him in ciphered letters as time goes on to try and prevent sort of certain crimes to protect their own conscience. Really,
Yeah.
he though they talk again. He mentions Moriarty, and then sort of like Watson starts going into details about Moriarty that he doesn't know until the final problem, and Holmes actually shoots him, chides him, is just sort of like, you don't want to be found guilty of libel for what you say, despite the fact Holmes has presumably told him all of these things. And, yeah, and uh, what Watson grasps that Sherlock is pursuing this one on to get at the organization because the chain's only as strong as its weakest link.
Yeah.
And so Sherlock reads out the message that they've received, which is 534, C2, 13, 127, 36, 31, 4, 17, 21, 41, Douglas, 109, 293, 5, 37, Burstone, 26, Burstone, 9, 47, 171. And of course, they can't make heads nor tails of it to begin with.
Well,
If
they guess right away that it's a code. But
yeah, because Porlock has always communicated via cipher with Sherlock, and Watson goes, and why didn't he send the cipher with the letter? And Sherlock, and at a moment that's just sort of like, oh, this is worthy of a Picard double facepalm meme. You know, just like,
yeah,
why didn't he send the cipher with the letter? Why bother writing the letter and the cipher at all if you send them together?
yeah,
Just save the time and just speak plainly if you're going to be that unsecure about it. So they're waiting for a second letter, and they do get another one from Fred Porlock. Okay, and the Holmes is disappointing. It is just oh dear me, this is very disappointing. I fear, Watson, that all our expectations came to nothing. Just that man Porlock will come to no harm. Because he gets the second letter from him, which is, Dear Mr. Holmes, I will go no further in this matter. It is too dangerous. He suspects me. I can see that he suspects me. He came to me quite unexpectedly after I'd actually addressed this envelope with the intention of sending you the key to the cipher. Was able to cover it up. If he had seen it, he would have gone hard with me. But I read suspicion in his eyes. Please burn the cipher message, which can now be of no use to you. Fred Porlock.
but of course
Now,
they don't need the key to the cipher to figure it out. They um
yeah,
find an
they sort of,
almanac. It doesn't help, but then they realize they're using quite a new book, so they use an older one, and that solves the message.
yeah. I was going to say, with this letter, I actually suspect that they do say it's the same writing, but I get the feeling it's sort of like it is sent, and then shortly thereafter, Porlock is dead. It's not stated in the text anywhere, but that is my suspicion.
Yeah.
And that Moriarty, that or they got a skilled forger to write the second letter. Which you think Moriarty would not have a skilled forger on hand for short notice work?
No, I would say he probably would.
Yeah, but yeah, they figure out it's an almanac because it's a long book. The first number is in the 500s, so that's a lot of pages, and it is a double columned book. Because rather than write just across the page in a single thing, they do it. You only have to read halfway across to go down. Just a trend of writing, of printing at the time, and they find that and they decode those messages. that a man named Douglas at Burstow is in grave danger. Is the heart of the message? Is these just they've put the note down when they're called upon by an Inspector MacDonald. Inspector Son of Donald has arrived. You still there, Ollie?
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry, I zoned out there for a second. Ugh,
Yeah.
bad day. Inspector McDonald.
Yeah, so he turns up and he says, I got a tough case for you. There's been a murder. And then he sees because Watson's been writing down the message as Holmes finds the sections on the page. And he sees the message and notices that Douglas and Burstow. It's just like, what witchcraft is this? How the devil did you know? Oh, that's it's Douglas and Burstow. And they're just sort of, okay, take us back to the beginning. This was a letter we got by Cypher. What has happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, and it was just sort of like what's the miss with the names? Just this, he said, that Mr. Douglas of Burstow Manor House was horribly murdered last night.
And
sorry, the accent just came through because I remembered in the audiobook it is just that Frankie Boyle joke. We'll never have to hear the word Mordor again. Taggart has been cancelled because murdered became Mordor in the guy's accent.
There's also that one time David Tennant did it. There's been a murder. Yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
So yeah, they and he is horribly murdered. Though he does MacDonald does make a point of saying horribly doesn't appear. Like that's not an official term that we use in investigations.
Yeah. There's yeah, Sherlock. This is a moment where he gets his excitement over sort of like, or where the perception of Sherlock is excited by death comes from, because he's just been told that someone's been horribly murdered, and he's now possessed of the energy of, oh, there's a mystery afoot.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, details. It's not because the guy's been murdered he's excited, it's because there is a mystery that should be sufficiently challenging to him. It also sort of makes Porlock's note sort of redundant because it arrived by morning mail, and by all accounts, the guy was killed in the middle of the night. So Porlock was able to give information on a crime that had already happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they go to the Belston house.
Well, they discuss the murder a bit before, and we learn how it got to MacDonald's attention first. Is that a personal friend of his was one of the responding officers and one of the people who responded, and sent a message to him alongside the official request for aid from London, because it's repeatedly said because they change a bit and they describe like the first responders looking at the scene, and it's just sort of like yeah, oh, this will definitely require London to solve. They say that at least 3 times. It will require London.
What, the whole city?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, again, so much is focused in London. And it's just like, there's been a murder. Better kill London. Now, it's also amusing to finally have a Scot working at Scotland Yard. Yeah.
I did often
Sherlock
wonder
also
why,
likes.
as a kid, I did often wonder why Scotland Yard wasn't in Scotland.
Yeah. Uh, uh, Sherlock likes Inspector MacDonald as well. He finds him a lot more bearable than most of the others he deals with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, oh.
Yeah. So MacDonald learns that about the note they came, and he inquired as to what efforts Sherlock has gone to discover the identity of Porlock. And Sherlock goes, no, and it wouldn't serve either of our purposes to find out who the man actually is, because he will probably stop communicating in fear of his life if I go try to work out, or just be flat out killed.
Yeah.
And MacDonald gets distracted, and actually Sherlock talks about Moriarty for a bit, and MacDonald is very like, well, something must be done about this man, forgetting his own horrible murder case for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and then yeah, and it it turns out that uh, Inspector McDonald has also met the Professor Moriarty from a previous mention of him, and then he thought him a decent fellow. And Sherlock did go to sort of like point out that the painting that hangs over behind Moriarty's desk is worth oh, what was the number?
Oh.
I'm in the section. Uh, oh, it's fetched 1,200,000 francs, more than £40,000. Hopefully, there was a currency conversion in the text for that one. So £40,000. This was before the last, the final problem. So that would be around 85, I want to say. So
Okay. Am I getting up the inflation calculator?
yeah,
Right. £40,000. Excuse me. 40,000 in. Sorry, what was the year?
I believe around 85.
1885. In today's money is £4,579,333.84.
Yeah, it's a small amount, especially as is then said later on that
Did you just say
the
Spencer McDonald?
professor.
Oh, hey, Seb. No, it was Inspector McDonald.
Yeah, but at this time, it is also said that it is recorded that Moriarty's yearly wage is £700 a year.
Which.
Yeah, so he bought a painting that, if he saved every single bit of his wage, would take him over 57 years to afford.
By the same
57.
conversion, £700 a year is 80,000, just over 80 grand a year in today's money.
Yeah,
Which is quite a lot.
and note the painting was said to be over 40,000. We don't know how much, so we just go with 40,000. Yeah. So it's just sort of like, yes, very criminal. Yeah, and Sherlock also recommends keep an eye on Moriarty and become familiar with a Jonathan Wild, who's he was a master criminal, but he lived in the last century, 1750 or thereabouts. Also, it's no use. It's no. I'm a practical man. This is of no use to me. He is just like, learn the history, History may not repeat itself exactly, but it certainly rhymes.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
does. Time is something of a flat circle.
yeah.
Okay,
No,
and I think now is when they go to the Burleston house.
yeah, they finally start making their way after they finally get back on track, and uh, yeah, the inquire was there any robbery as to what had gone on here in this scene before that while they're making their way over.
Well, Watson
Uh,
starts with an exposition dump in the text. For a moment, I will remove my own insignificant personality and to describe events which occurred before we arrived upon the scene by the light of the knowledge which came to us afterwards. Only in this way can I make the reader appreciate the people concerned and the strange setting in which their fate was cast. And then he goes into a bit of a side about, like, he describes the setting. Half timbered cottages on the northern border of the county of Sussex. Um, like, I wasn't really paying attention to the scene setting when I was listening to it, to be honest. Um,
yeah, it's basically a nice small country town starting to grow a bit. The sort of ancestral home had been abandoned and is now inhabited again by Douglas and his wife of 5 years. They bought it about 5 years ago. They've been married. Bought it, yeah, about 5 years ago. They married before they came back here. Yeah, and the house is has a small moat running around it and has a drawbridge to sort of show that this is more a castle than a house in some ways.
yeah,
But there's no wall on the other side of it, so it sort of would have been small fortification. Douglas liked keeping the bridge going up and down at set times for the sake of tradition. He said, and he was well liked in the area and such. I think he wasn't as I think he was described as charitable, but not to the same level as like the Baskervilles were in Hound of the Baskervilles
yeah,
after their cursed ancestor, of course. Yeah, the house was in a was threatening to moulder into picturesque decay when Douglas took possession of it. Is the line?
yeah. But when they arrive at the scene of the crime, they're treated to quite a horrible sight. Guy's
Yeah,
guy's head is basically gone.
yeah. Well, at the very least, his face has been blown off,
Yep, sawed
and
off shotgun
yeah,
directly to the face.
yeah, the sawn-off shotgun. Uh, which the choice of that weapon is just set sort of like Holmes is also set Inspector McDonald's um like senses off and like this is a weird choice, and it's got Holmes's brain whirring because the theory is someone's come in and murdered him because they rule out suicide because
Well,
it's
why
just
would
not
you do it
practical.
that way?
Yeah, it's not practical, and even with like the sawed-off shotgun, it's not an easy thing to do. And like because it's sawed off, it also suggests that someone brought it in and like sneaking. There's a pair of muddy footprints under the curtain in one area, and there's a part of a bloody footprint going out the windowsill. That was apparently the window was open, but the curtains were drawn across it, so nobody spotted until sometime later. Because apparently, according to the various witnesses, they heard the shot, and then within 30 seconds there were people there. But a second detail has caught the inspector's eyes, and he draws it Sherlock's attention. Is that Douglas was known to wear his wedding ring underneath another ring, so it would be as there was a ring in front of it. But he also said it was on the little finger as his last hand, so not the traditional ring finger. Interestingly, but
I mean, maybe he just had large
there is
hands.
yeah, there is another ring. There is the ring that sits in front of the wedding ring on the man's finger, but not the wedding ring. So it's just sort of like Sherlock's like, are we to believe that within 30 seconds, a man goes there, shoots him, takes this nub ring, I think they call it, off, takes the guy's wedding ring, returns the nub ring, and then climbs out the window and wades across the moat and be out of sight or out of hearing range from moving in the water within 30 seconds.
Yeah, that does not
And
quite add up.
yeah, and they speak with the wife who tells the story, but she sort of they note that her eyes dart about as if she's taking the measure of them, and that uh, she seems to be. She inquires as to whether to what they think is going on, and like whether they think anyone else was involved. And she is one of two people they speak with that we actually hear of what they say, rather than like the house staff, where it's just sort of like confirmed that the house staff like the comparison nothing has been touched up to now, said Cecil Barker, who's one of the two, as an example. Whereas like the house staff is the maid said she heard a banging 30 minutes earlier, and that's a quote of Watson saying the maid said this, not I heard a banging earlier, said the maid. So it's just sort of like house staff don't get dialogue.
No.
Yeah, it's a realization we probably should have had a fair amount earlier in the Sherlock Holmes stories. But
Yeah.
there has been the occasional exception, like the maid of the Aussie woman in oh god, it was only 2 weeks ago. I think we did it.
Uh.
It's uh, the one with the abusive husband who was
Oh
shot
yeah.
by the ship captain. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
forgotten the name of the adventure now.
Something Peter, wasn't it?
No, that was the guy who got harpooned onto his wall. That was the adventure of Black Peter. It was I think it was a story just before the Golden Pince Nez, the
Ah
penultimate
yeah.
in.
Uh,
That's gonna bug me.
okay, hold on.
Sorry.
It was The Return of Sherlock Holmes. I'll look it up.
Yeah. I've got it up. Abbey Grange.
Ah yes.
I just needed to go back because on one thing for it. So yeah, I'll go back onto the main text. Barker, it turns out, Douglas, it turns out, is an American who married his wife after coming to England. Barker is an old business partner of his. They had a claim in Californian gold. So basically they owned land which was mined for Californian gold, I believe, and then they Douglas sold his share to Barker and picked up and left suddenly, and shortly after, like within a week or so, a group of people came looking for Douglas, and Barker didn't tell them anything other than that he's no longer here. And that he says he doesn't know where they go, which isn't true. but he didn't want to tell the people he assumed was a member of a secret society who were out to get Douglas where he was. This is when Douglas left America to come to England,
Yeah.
and Barker has visited repeatedly over the years. And indeed, it seems that initial suspicion from Holmes is that Barker is in fact the killer, because he and Mrs. Douglas are romantically entangled, but they couldn't get rid of Douglas any other way.
They do seem a
Which
little
is actually a lot. Sorry.
well, because
You go on.
Watson's taking a walk in the garden, and he sees them laughing together, and he's quite offended by this. It's like, your husband has just had his face blown off, and you're like, here,
Thing? Yeah.
yeah, and
Having a normal part of life.
yeah. And you know, he was but they do at that point catch him and ask, is Sherlock Holmes beholden to the police? Like, they don't use those words, but that's the gist of it. They're basically asking, if we take Sherlock into our confidence, will he tell the police everything that we tell him? And Watson is reluctant to answer at first, but upon pleading from the widow, he acquiesces and says Sherlock Holmes has, in the past, taken people into their confidences and would probably pass things on to the police if it meant bringing a criminal to justice. But the gist is that other than that, he would probably respect their privacy. Not that there was any point in that conversation, because Sherlock outright rules out being taken into any of their confidences.
Yeah.
It's like, no, fuck that. And, well, it's here that Sherlock and Watson have a bit of a discussion about their own theories, and the thing that Holmes keeps coming back to is there is a singular dumbbell in the house, and he finds that incredibly odd. Sorry?
Yeah. It's just like, where has the other one gone? It's the crux of his questioning.
Yeah.
Like, this makes no sense. Where is this?
I'm not sure you can even buy singular dumbbells, can you?
I had, when growing up, a set of 4 of different weights. So I could have a singular one of one of a singular weight, but it was still part of a set of 4.
Yeah.
Or so, yeah. The closest I think you can get to it is you can buy kettlebells nowadays.
Ah, yeah,
which
I
are
suppose.
meant to be used as one.
Hey, Seb's back. He says there's going to be a one-armed man, isn't there?
No, but it is a valid hypothesis, actually.
That is actually. I didn't think of that, but he's like, no, think of how lopsided his workout regimen must be. The guy's spine must be curved to fuck. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing here. A Victorian man would never describe something as anything to fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going on, and
but Watson's sorry, I was Watson's hypothesis seems to be that both of the surviving people cannot be trusted at all. That they should assume that everything they've told them is a lie. And he's like, so you're sure they're guilty of the murder? He's like, don't put words in my mouth, Watson. I'm sure they know what happened, but to say that they're guilty, yeah, sorry,
yeah, but that doesn't make them guilty.
Yeah,
yeah. There is I can't remember at what point this is, but I think it's before this conversation happened. And
I just saw Sep's comment and it made me laugh more than I thought it would.
It doesn't want other people knowing it's had by its wife. One arm of his arms already rustling. Oh dear, Sam. I believe it's either before this conversation or just after this. They're in the room and Sherlock because Barker has admitted that while sort of investigating the room and like when he discovered the window was open sometimes later, he had stepped in Douglas's blood and in the night slippers. It was because it was late at night when this happened, when the drawbridge was up. So there was an assumption that they came over the moat, which is only 3 foot deep at its deepest. But Sherlock gets his hands on the slipper that Barker was wearing in the night when he came into the room and compares the bloody footprint to the slipper, and it's an exact match. So Barker is not looking particularly great at this point either.
No. I believe, Watson, that he was planning a wank. Oh my god.
Looking at it, looking at some of the evidence, is sort of like lube, a laptop, tissues. Who's? I'm sorry. Who came over the moat? They believe the killer left via the moat, not came over the moat. That would well, that would be hard to work out if someone came over. It's just like that moat.
This
is
estate has a moat, by the way.
Yeah.
I'd love a moat.
Yes, and the drawbridge, I would imagine. This is
lower the bridge.
Sort of... Oh no, Jehovah's Witnesses, raise the bridge. But there is the next day, the local detective and or the local inspector and Inspector MacDonald locate a bicycle after finding some bicycle tracks near the country home, near Burstone.
I wonder if the owner wants to ride it. Well,
yes,
if he did, he wouldn't have abandoned it.
Yeah, but they follow the tracks back to a guest house, and they learn that an American has recently checked in with just 2 items with him. Beyond the clothes he's wearing, the bicycle that they've just brought, and a case. I can't remember what kind of case they say it is, but it is big enough that it would hold the sawn-off shotgun. So there's posits. Well, this is the killer. What was the description they gave of me? It's just like, why? There's a description you could get of Douglas as well. Yeah. Oh, so it's a moment of is this another one where they're sort of faking their own? Someone is coming in, and Douglas, in fact, is a fiction. Seems incredibly unlikely, but it does sort of. It crossed my mind. It doesn't appear in the text.
Yeah.
Or the killer is a fiction, and it is in fact a suicide as well. That Douglas set up an incredibly elaborate suicide that looked like murder. In which, in a Sherlock Holmes story, I would not put it past them doing that one day. Whether in an adaptation or Conan Doyle actually did it, I don't know. In this case, or in this instance, the case is one that holds items, not a case that to solve. Because there's a case that was big enough to hold a sawn-off shotgun. Not a case involving a man whose face has been blown off by a sawn-off shotgun.
Although this case is involved in the case.
Yes.
The case is involved in the case, but this case is not a case.
The word case has lost all meaning in the last minute.
Indeed.
Indeed. But, yes. So they're tracking this down, and Sherlock begs an indulgence that is just sort of like, because they've got rooms in town rather than at the house, It's just like, let me spend the night spending a bit of time in the room, and then I should be able to get a greater feel for it in its natural environment, or like when the murder happened, the environment and the time there, and they assent to let Sherlock do that, and it's just sort of like, will you need me to come along? What, Sherlock? No, Watson, just your umbrella. Your umbrella and a night in the room should see me through, and everyone is sort of going, what? Why is the only thing he needs an umbrella? It's not even like this is a bedroom, so it's not like he's going to be sleeping. It's a study that got checked on the nightly rounds and by Douglas.
I don't remember the umbrella.
Yeah, I forgot about it until I remembered a small bit of it, and I went, "Oh yes, umbrella. That's why." Sherlock's there, and before the night is over, he's returned to the lodgings that he and Watson are currently renting. It's just like, oh yeah, no, it's all fine. We shall speak more on the morrow. I can't really say anything before that. And it comes to the next morning, and the two inspectors visit Sherlock, who also spent a bit of time in the previous day out in the town. And Sherlock is just like, if you want a piece of advice about the case, drop it. And they just sort of like, go spend some time.
So are we talking
the
about the case in general or the shotgun case?
The case in general.
I know.
Like,
Seb just said whatever the case may be.
Yeah, better get there before Seb asks the question, is it?
Your case is not a case.
I assure you, this case is a case. It holds suits. Yes, but it's not the kind of case that Mr. Holmes is looking for. What he wants, what does he want? I have bookcases? No. Do you have a murder case? Why would you contain a murder in a wooden receptacle? Are you mad? Good day, sir.
Good day, sir.
Yes, but Sherlock has also sent a letter. Gets the Inspector McDonald is like, fine, if you're not going to take my advice, just send off this note that to inform Barker and Mrs. McDonald that because the moat is formed by a stream, it's not just standing water. That they're going to be blocking off this, redirecting the stream, and so we can dredge the moat, basically, for evidence. And it does like, I've already inquired. They're not going to just and send copy the note down and send it, because Sherlock is setting a trap.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a large wooden box with a stick holding it up in the string, basically. It feels like.
Yeah.
Why do you hide your case? Because I heard you saying that you were going to crack it. Do you know how expensive this is?
Yeah.
It's a case of wine, for goodness sake. You don't crack that. Yeah. Using all the uses of case we can find today.
Yeah.
Well, Sherlock is saying, go around the house. It's an interesting some local history of like King Charles visited at the house and other things.
That'll be Charles the First or Second, not Charlie 3.
Yeah. But that would be confusing if it was Charles III who turned up. Time travel would be going on.
Oh, I say.
I don't think Arthur Conan Doyle wants to deal with that nonsense. Yeah, and it's sort of revealed later that at this point, Sherlock is basically telling them because he doesn't tell them any more about the case as such. It's just like, I can't at the moment. It's just sort of like, the information I have can't be acted upon yet. When he says to drop the case, he's telling them to take the day off and basically act as tourists around the town and just enjoy it. And he's also just dropped a massive hint to the solution, and is in the town's history. But they in an admirable display, as opposed to a lot of detectives that would have been told to just drop the case in like fiction at the time, would have just gone, okay. They actually keep trying to work it. They get nowhere, and they've wasted a day working on something that they didn't need to, but they did their job, which is probably part of why Sherlock likes Inspector MacDonald. Sort of, he will actually put in the legwork.
Seb just said, why doesn't Tony Soprano like Socrates? Because he's a real wise guy.
It's not Socrates, it's Socrates.
Socrates.
Yeah. A crate, a kind of case. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Okay, this case aside is really quite an issue. Let's just put this case aside.
In any
I don't
case,
know if it's a case of wine to drink later, or this case is giving me a headache, and we'll return to it when we have more information.
In any case,
yeah, we'll leave it aside for the time being. A terrifying person, the time being.
The time being.
Yeah. Is he here with us? Who? The time being. Oh dear. Okay. So now to try and center ourselves back
Linguistic
onto the
ambiguity.
Puns. The highest form of humor. Yes. Inspector McDonald's. They're out of straws and the ketchup dispenser doesn't work. Normally, in my experience, it's the ice cream machine that doesn't work. The ketchup dispenser generally does. It's just empty. The time being. Isn't that just the doctor? Could be. Could also be the bad wolf entity. Could be any of the Time Lords. Could be none of them. Who knows? Well, actually, Jodie Whittaker meets the embodiment of time itself in the end of the Flux storyline, so that's the time being. Yeah. Oh god, it's depressing when there's answers to these things and answers comical. But yes, so Sherlock drags the two inspectors and Watson out for out in the night to watch the window where of the room that was the murder took place, looking out. And the inspectors are grumbling slightly, and out comes Barker, who is fishing something out of the moat. And just after he's fished it out of the moat, they jump him, which is a particular favourite of these stories. It's just like, oh good, they've just got the incriminating piece of evidence or done the incriminating behaviour. Jump him!
Pile on, lads!
Pile on! Don't give them any don't say stop, it's the police or anything like that. Just jump him and make him react on this fight or flight reflex.
Not Bob Barker. No, not Bob Barker, not Benjamin Barker, not Hannibal Barker.
Cecil Barker. In which they grab him and they discover that the bag contains a set of clothes that match the description of those that were being worn by the American whose bike they'd found earlier, and the missing dumbbell.
There it is.
Sherlock goes, there it is, or that is where you left it, or rather where I replaced it. Because when Sherlock had stayed out, he stayed at the place. It took him less than 20 minutes to figure out and then locate the package of clothes and the dumbbell, utilizing Watson's umbrella to hook with the handle to draw them out of the moat. It was remembering that they were in the moat is what caused me to remember that he borrowed Watson's umbrella.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
This isn't even
yes,
the first time they've had like heavy object used to sink something to come back for.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I like this story, but it does sort of feel like Arthur Conan Doyle has just sort of um
the greatest hits of Arthur Conan Doyle tropes.
yeah.
Because there's another two coming up as well. So, and Sherlock has sort of figured out what's going on and was saying like the two inspectors are annoyed with him because they've wasted a day and then he's dragged them out. And he's just sort of like, you could have just told us. It's like, I could not until I do this in the evening, because when you inform them of the note, they're not going to do it in daylight. There'll be people and witnesses. So they have to do it in the evening. So that's why we came. So we can act on anything. And if you had taken my advice, you might have also learned at the when King Charles stayed here, and the parliamentary forces came looking for him and how he hid. And in another greatest hit, in the twofer of greatest hits of Conan Doyle tropes, there is a secret compartment in the house, a priest hole.
Secret tunnel.
Yeah, not quite a full tunnel, but a priest hole so they can hide. So like it was built in the house during like the Catholic and Protestant purges of various Tudors.
Yeah, at least
And,
they didn't have to shout fire to get him to run out this time.
yeah, because he knows the game is up and he came out, and Douglas is alive.
Hooray! Question mark? Is that good? We don't know yet.
Yeah, and so we learn.
Well, of course it is, because that means that he hasn't been murdered. But then whose is the body that doesn't have a face anymore? Whose face is not really a face?
His face is splattered all over the wall.
Yeah, the human equivalent of strawberry jam.
Yeah, Sherlock gets them to explain the crime as they always do. And it turns out that Douglas, an enemy from his past, had resurfaced. His what was his name? Ted Billings, I want to say.
No, McGinty.
No, McGinty was his. It wasn't McGinty who came back to him. McGinty got the rope.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
McGinty was the
Baldwin,
like chapter leader. Ted Baldwin, yeah.
Yeah. An enemy from his past called Ted Baldwin had.
This is King Charles II. The current King Charles has not upset parliamentary forces yet.
Wouldn't it be King Charles I? Because he was the one that with the Civil War, and parliamentary forces were those who opposed the royalists.
Yeah.
Yes, and eventually got rid of him, and parliamentary forces essentially went away by the time they brought Charles back brought it back Charles II, because the parliamentary forces were those loyal to Cromwell. And he was gone by this point, and there was much dancing in Ireland. I believe there's still a queue to dance on his grave.
And there was much rejoicing.
Yeah, but Ted Baldwin had reappeared in his life. This was who he fled in California, sent him to England, and he'd spotted him in town. Unfortunately, wasn't spotted himself. Otherwise, the murder attempt might have been a lot more public. And he reveals that shock horror, the drawbridge was drawn up in part out of it. Out of it gave him a greater sense of security every night.
Yeah.
Right, even
Well,
though
it will,
water
won't
was
it?
yeah, even though the water was sort of only 3 foot deep, they describe it as not even a child could drown in this. Have you met children? Have you met adults? We have provably decided that we can drown in puddles that are only 2 inches deep. As a
People
species, this
have
has been proven
drowned in
more
dog
than once.
bowls. That is a thing that has happened.
Yes, yes. It's the depth of the water is almost immaterial as long as it can cover the nose and the mouth.
Yeah.
Indeed, that is the basis of waterboarding torture, is to get that sensation going. But yeah. So Ted Baldwin had broken in and had hidden for hours behind the curtain with the short-off shotgun to get his revenge, and the reasons why we will discuss it in a moment.
Yeah.
But at having seen Baldwin in town, Douglas was on edge and spotted the muddy footprints, and was able to, before Baldwin shot him, grab a hold of the gun, and they wrestled.
And he says it's not clear who pulled the trigger, but basically it was under Baldwin's chin when it discharged.
Yeah, Baldwin let it hang a little too long under the chin. Is close to the language of it, but it's just and it discharged. And Barker and the wife both came down in response to hearing the gunshot, and they waited a moment, expecting like the help to come running. And when it didn't happen, they realised that they'd been given an opportunity. So Barker and Baldwin set about making not Baldwin. Barker and Douglas set about making Baldwin look like he was Douglas.
So that
no face, easy to identify. So it's like moving jewelry across, getting him into some of his other clothes, for other enemies to believe that he was dead, because there were more of them.
Yeah.
Baldwin was just the one to catch up with him first. And it's revealed why the wedding ring wasn't transferred is that in the 5 years since he got it, Douglas's hands had swollen, so he couldn't physically get the ring past the knuckle anymore, which is something that happens with arthritis. Amongst other conditions, but arthritis is sort of the main one I know of that does it. And then Douglas has been hiding in the priest hole since then, and he says like it's just like Sherlock is like I can tell you are a smoker. It's just sort of like if I was sat in a tiny area with tobacco in my pocket and couldn't smoke it, so what else was I to do but record my story by what light there was, which he's given to Watson, which is entitled The Valley of Fear, which is something that got mentioned a few times earlier in the story, and we completely forgot to mention it.
Yeah, we did. Also... his wife speaks when giving testimony, trying to keep up the pretense of the murder. She said her husband would often say that he was in the Valley of Fear, and she was like, well, when can we get out of it? And it's like soon.
Yeah, and there was a card left, which was essentially the calling card of an organization connected to the Valley of Fear, which was the Scowrers, Scowrers. Yes, not ones who will use wire pads to get rust off of metal. Not that kind of scourers. And not to be confused with scousers
No,
either.
that's an entirely different thing.
Yeah, but so yes, Sherlock has solved his mystery. Douglas is not dead. A bad man has had his face blown off in his stead. And oh yeah, they fired the gun a second time, half an hour later when it was all set up to cool the house staff down because they didn't come the first time, which the maid had said the door had slammed half an hour earlier. That was, in fact, when the fatal shot was, and Sherlock had suspected that near enough from the moment he heard that and had examined the scene. And there's the missing wedding ring and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Uh, but I will confess, with this one, a lot more so than any of the others, I feel Sherlock. I know it's not written as that is the case, but I feel Sherlock was bluffing about how much he actually knew of this case.
It does sort
This
of
one,
come off like that, doesn't it?
yeah, this one in particular is like comes off as that. Like, there's one or two in the past where it's possible, but they then have him have a bit at the end where he explains how he came to all the deductions. Like, I believe the Sign of Four has that sort of moment, and a few of the earlier short stories. But this story doesn't have that moment. So it comes across of he didn't know every piece. Like, genuinely, it seems like he doesn't know whether it is actually Douglas or Baldwin who is the corpse. And that he is relying on the fact that he knows there's a priest hole and he's located the clothes for them to tell him what actually happened. And because it just comes across that all he knows is there's a hiding spot in the house. The wife and the friend aren't being truthful. Or there's some clothes in a bag with a missing dumbbell at the bottom of the moat, and a sawn-off shotgun is not a suicide weapon. And it doesn't feel like he's actually put together what the case is, how this actually happened, and everything that has happened. And yeah, Sherlock Watson has been given the manuscript for the Valley of Fear. Here it's entitled, which is Douglas's history and as to why Baldwin is after him. But Douglas is being taken off to face the magistrates because a man has still died. So the law is clear. There has to be a case in this.
Yeah.
And this is where we leave the main narrative for quite a while and go into part two of the Valley of Fear, which takes place years earlier in America. I cannot remember where the titular Valley of Fear is, which is his proper name is Vermissa Valley. Which is sort of portrayed as it's a mining town, sort of a frontier sort of place. The frontier sort of town or settlement, as opposed to the more established cities and states. Now, as I said, I've just looked it up. The closest that it narrows it down to is Western United States. Vermissa Valley is not actually a real place.
I see.
Yeah. But
Oh God, I've I've just realised I've spelt the. There's been a typo. I've spelt Sherlock Holmes wrong.
Holmes,
It says
Holmes, like
Holmans.
legit.
Uh,
Yeah.
so
So
I've
that
got.
hold it. Yeah. So we get a bit of about from Mister, a bit of information about the area. It's sort of like there's a gang of murderers called the Scarers about in Vermissa Valley. The local police not really having any luck. Towns living in fear. But a man has come, um, uh, and we're following him, which we now know that this is Douglas, but because it's Douglas who wrote this. But he doesn't go by the name Douglas at this point. He goes by Jack McNamara, or Jack McMurdo, even. I don't know why I said McNamara. That just
I think
suddenly
there
came in
is a
my head.
McNamara in this story. Yeah, I seem
Yeah,
to
but
recall one.
but Jack is told has come here because he's avoiding some heat. He's killed a man in Chicago, and he's looking for basically he's hiding from the law, and he makes friends with a man there. Like he sees him at the start, but sort of like asking for directions and such. At the entrance to Vermissa Valley, like the train station before it, and it discovers that he is also a Freemason. So he gets its advice to where to go to meet the leader of the local lodge. And is advised to do it sooner rather than later. Uh, he then gets into a minor altercation with a policeman who he takes great offence at this policeman inquiring into his private business, and is not and gives his name to show he is not scared of this policeman.
Yeah.
And then makes his way to Vermissa Valley and takes up rooms in a German man is in the rooms, and he's got a beautiful young daughter who Jack is very taken with. I want to say her name is Elsie.
Elsie.
I could,
That's Elsie. That seems about right. Let me. Uh,
yeah, skip. So it's done right. Just trying to find this. Yeah, but man, yeah, but he takes the room, and he's getting very close very quickly with the daughter. Uh, Etty, Ettie, Etty Shafter, which is a slightly unfortunate surname.
yeah.
But Etty,
Etty.
he and Etty are getting close, but Herr Shafter is laments slightly that she is promised, quote unquote, to another man, this Ted Baldwin, who we've encountered in the main narrative. If not because he actually approved the match or thinks it's a particularly good match, but because Ted Baldwin is a powerful member of the local Freemason and lodge.
We should mention that it is soon established that this Freemason lodge is very different from the one he's come from, or indeed any others that he's heard of in any other places.
Yeah, because this Freemason lodge is the Scourers. They are one and the same. They are basically using their position to be a murder gang in this. And so he is lamenting this. And then he learns about 6 days in that Jack is also a Freemason after there has been a confrontation between Ted and Jack. Because Ted is does not take the fact that Etty is talking to Jack at all and clearly seems to like him well, and is basically just threatens to kill him.
Yeah,
And
and
reveals
doesn't take well to him calling him by his first name.
Yeah. Yeah, he reveals a brand that he's got on his arm, which is one of the peculiarities of the Vermissa Valley Lodge, along with beyond the murder. They have other rights in that. And Jack, having been told where Boss McGinty, who runs the local saloon and is the body man of the lodge, is, he gets there first and starts to and befriends him and gets into his good graces quite quickly. He like in the time it takes Ted Baldwin to get there. And McGinty serves as a mediator between two lodge members and basically tells Baldwin, look, you can't call dibs on a woman. And if, especially if the other person.
Well, the implication is it's not a done deal if the dispute is between two Freemasons or Scourers.
Yeah, in this instance, it's a sort of like while Jack hasn't been inducted into the local lodge yet, he is a known Freemason. He's passed all the tests of like secret signals, call and responses, and his knowledge of the various ranks of the Chicago Lodge and like who's filling them. So he is a brother, and he has also agreed that he will on this weekend coming join officially, like become a member of the Vermissa Valley Lodge. So Ted Baldwin doesn't get to call dibs against him, and Etty gets to choose. Of course, Ted does not like this at all, and is very.
Yes, he's very put out by the whole thing.
Yeah, he's clear in his demeanor that he doesn't like Jack at every opportunity.
Yeah.
But Bodyman has just spoken, which is not the highest rank in the area, but the highest rank in the lodge, from what I gathered for it.
Yeah. So, they are sufficiently scared of McGinty that when I've lost the other guy's name. You just said it to me. When the guy says, "You're not, you don't have that position for life," and when the next vote comes, and then he gets grabbed by the throat.
Yeah, McGinty is, as the head of a group of a murder gang, he definitely does not seem to have any issue killing himself. Though we don't actually see him go out on any of the kill missions within this story.
Yeah,
because there are several that are put out, but Jack gets kicked out by Herr Schafter because he does not want any of the Freemasons under his roof. And Jack is fine with this. Etty still seems perfectly willing to talk with him, and so that he's fine with that. He takes on I believe I remembered where the McNamara is. It's the widow McNamara, who he stays with, I believe. Who he rents rooms from before, along with the man he befriended at the start of this part of the narrative. They both take on rooms, and it's revealed that Jack is supposedly forging coins, dollar coins, and like no one can believe that these are forgeries, which will be revealed how he pulls that one off later. Uh, and is just sort of like he's keeping himself there, and he attends the meeting and gets sworn in, which includes the surprise branding on his arm, which he deals with very well. He takes the trust exercise of he's ordered to take a step forwards, but he feels that there's two things pressing against something sharp pressing against each of his eyes because he's blindfolded at this point. But he takes the steps, and the things are drawn back as he moves forward, so he's not blinded. And he takes the various oaths.
Yeah.
And he's inducted in. And while there's like the celebratory drinks to start with, it then gets to an actual meeting and business in which he gets some information and about like local things, like there's a lot of money in the treasury. They're paying to look after the families of dead members, as which that is more something that the original sort of idea of the Freemasons is supposedly is. It's like a precursor to workers' unions to an extent, is like making sure that companies or someone looks after the widows of workers and stuff like that. A charitable organization, it gets called more than once.
Yeah.
But there is one who raises sort of dissenting voices because they're doing protection money jobs for $500 and stuff like that. And one who sort of objects, pointing out that many of these, that repeatedly small businesses are being driven away, and every single one of them is being replaced by a larger like railroad company or something. So he's worried for the survival of the lodge, because if we keep going like this, we will attract the attention of a company who will just happily pay to have us killed.
Yeah.
As he's trying to be the voice of reason, and he is being not so subtly threatened that if he keeps going on like this, he will be in trouble. And in this case, trouble equals death.
Yeah. And well, the thing of it is, he's not wrong.
Yeah. But they then looking for volunteers to do certain jobs because the Missa Valley is or the Valley of Fear is more than just the one lodge. There are a few connected lodges who basically swap people for various jobs, so that like the people who did them won't be recognized in the area they're doing them. So there's volunteers for that, and Jack volunteers to take part in some of these missions, and it's just sort of like, no, you've only just joined. We're not sure enough about you. But they're more polite than that. But that is the implication. But we will note you down as sort of eager and willing. And it doesn't take too long before they do give him one, which is to blow up a businessman and his family's home who have been causing them trouble. And before that job, he makes himself almost an indispensable part of the scene. Like he is there at the saloon regularly. The police officer he'd accosted earlier does absolute wonders for his reputation and amongst them, both like him standing up to them and the police officer admitting things that he probably shouldn't. That yes, they know he's the murderer, they don't have a case against him, so he's essentially scot-free in Chicago, and he then doesn't leave to immediately go back in Chicago, which is just sort of like, oh, he's one of us. The police basically confirmed that, and he's fine to stay in here, and he is also just forging us dollar coins and all of that.
Yeah.
like the greatest forgeries we've ever seen. So like they're happy, and he gets himself like indispensable in a matter of weeks, and gets his like first job, which they do blow up the
Much
house, but it's
to like much to the chagrin of what's his name?
Baldwin.
Baldwin.
Yeah, yeah, who is yeah, he's not lost any standing, but he's also not gained any standing. So
So next
and
to
also
our man, he must look like he's standing still while someone else just
yeah,
rockets past him.
yeah, and Etty is still, despite what Jack is supposedly doing, Etty is still very much drawn to him, but does want him to leave.
Yeah,
And like they do talk about going away together. And he does actually promise about leaving within like 7 months, at most a year. Yeah, and that calms her for that, and more jobs are gotten on. But it was this was a bit earlier, but the conscientious objector amongst them has come up and has spoken to Jack about his fears and his doubts of what's happening with the lodge. And he confesses about what he did to earn his place in the lodge, and like how it haunts him. And he's also worried that Jack is sort of like going to report him, but Jack assures him that he's not going to. It's just sort of like you have not said like anything that would suggest to me that you are going to squeal. Also, you haven't moved against the lodge, so I see no need to report this. And to give a valid reason as to why the two of them are talking, Jack is offered a partnership at the conscientious members' store, and he politely declines it.
yeah, that's their
So that,
cover story.
yeah, so that when McGinty asked the day after what they spoke about, they A, had a story, and B, it was true because he did offer it and it was declined.
Yeah,
And yeah, so yeah, but when they blew the house up, we learned that from an abundance of paranoia, the man had moved his family out of it just the night before. So news hadn't reached the lodge that the family weren't there, and an empty house, was destroyed. Right, and they've gone to like beat a man who's yeah, Ted Baldwin's in charge of this one. They've gone to beat a man who's refused to pay the money, and they're under instructions not to kill him. And Jack actually has to pull Ted Baldwin off of the man because he's got the murder lust in his eyes.
yeah, and there's imagery of blood in his white hair, which I
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes me think, okay, this isn't going to make sense to anyone but me, and on the off chance my other co-host Murray is listening, it's like, if you've ever seen Ric Flair wrestle past 2005 on, he would often, wrestlers often bleed from the forehead, and the blood mixes with the sweat and makes it look like there's more there. This person's hair is very white, so when he bleeds in it, it's a very
Striking image.
Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. So that's what the imagery of blood speckled in white hair of the old man made me think of.
Yeah. So but there's a few of these jobs going on. There's like that one, results in the police actually arresting Jack and everyone else involved in the attack. But the case gets dismissed because, thanks to the lodge, there's a dozen witnesses perfectly willing to say that they were taking part in a card tournament at McGinty's saloon, and so
Yeah.
they all get off of this, and but several jobs like this happen. We don't get a lot of details on any of them really, and there's some swapping over with other places, and the alderman of the Missa Valley, he believes the title is called, is sort of revealed as being the one who organizes these swaps and seems to be like the only person nearby who can actually boss McGinty around without having to worry.
Yeah.
And yeah, and Jack has got himself over the course of a few months to a position where is openly spoke about that he is a future bodyman. Like he's basically McGinty's successor when McGinty steps down.
Yeah.
Is how he's viewed. And it's at this point that the conscientious objector comes back to him again, or the conscientious one. I've forgotten his name. And he reveals that he's got a letter from a friend back home who sort of has connection, or from like a friend from his former industry. He used to be connected with the railroads, and put everything into the shop. He would have left for Missa Valley long ago if it wasn't for the fact that all of his worldly wealth was in the shop. So if he left, he'd have nothing. But he got a letter saying that a man called Birdie Edwards had been sent by the railroad company from the Pinkertons and was coming to the Missa Valley.
Yeah.
And just sort of like, he doesn't want to betray the take it to the lodge because it would result in the death of Birdie Edwards, but he also can't hide it because it would be betraying the lodge. So Jack takes the letter and says he will bring it to them, and he'll leave it with me. I will get this sorted. And then he goes to see Etty and tells her, like, get ready. Within the next couple of days, I will send word. When I do, we're leaving immediately. Me, you, and your father. Her father doesn't like him, but he's still providing this warning for them to go. And he then takes the letter to McGinty in a lodge meeting, and they're starting talking about sort of like, okay, what are like the murder jobs, the extortion jobs.
Seb, sorry, Seb, I hadn't noticed your comment. He said, all this talk of Rick Brown reminded me, have either of you ever seen AKA Cult Tunes? It was on Cartoon Network a long time ago. No, I haven't. I was not aware of that.
I never had Cartoon Network, so yeah. Anything that was on Cartoon Network that I saw would generally be when it finally reached another channel. But yeah, but Jack interrupts with a point of urgency to take control of the meeting. And it's granted, and he mentions about this letter, but it shouldn't be talked about in full lodge assembly, as they'll need sort of a panel to judge the actions. So just like myself to explain, McGinty, Baldwin, and 5 others that you trust, and they bring 5 others that they brought have mentioned for the other jobs. And he explains about this letter that there is Birdie Edwards is coming in as a Pinkerton, and he says he knows who Birdie Edwards is. and he tells the story of a journalist who has inquired into him and just sort of like for information and stuff about the lodge and the practices. And it was just sort of like he was paying good money, so I spun him tales that were false. False. But I then inquired at the post office or the telegraph office, and he sends messages every day, which is unusual even for a journalist who is basically getting nothing, or
Yeah.
especially for a journalist who's basically getting nothing.
So now that you describe
Yeah.
it, I think I did see that once, maybe twice. I just
Yeah.
didn't know what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and he puts forward a plan of how he will draw them all to his rooms, draw the journalist to his rooms by going to him tomorrow, saying that he's got books and like notes and stuff like that about all the practices and stuff that he can have access to for good price. And it was just all. And then McGinty goes on edge and going, "What books? What notes?" And so, "Oh, they're completely fictitious. I have nothing that would incriminate the lodge." But he doesn't know that. And then we can draw him into to the rooms, and they put the plan in how we'll approach him and get money from that as like a down payment, and then bring him over in the night. 7 of them will hide. The other 7 will hide in the other room, and they'll jump him once he's securely in and is sort of relaxed and stuff, and find out what he knows, and any agents he might have within the lodge. And I go, but why would he say? Wouldn't he be suspicious that you refuse to bring the books to him? It's just sort of like yeah, but it's just sort of like, why would I risk bringing these books and notes to him in public? Like when he thinks that with what he thinks about the lodge having been sent to exterminate it, basically.
Yeah. And
And so they're all satisfied with the plan, and that he's thought of everything on how to trap them, and they agree to it
yeah.
for 7 the next evening.
And he does tell them that there's a Pinkerton agent on their tail.
Yeah.
That much he's honest about. He just doesn't mention that it's him. And we don't find out that it's him, like, really, until he reveals it to them, which I find, like, interesting. That was,
Yeah, because how the ambush actually goes is he brings someone in. He goes to answer the door once they're all in, and he brings someone in with him. With a tread they don't recognize because they're only hearing footsteps in the corridor. And he comes through, and his mannerisms and his accent have completely changed from how he spoke to them not a paragraph earlier. And he reveals that, yes, Birdie Edwards is here. I am Birdie Edwards. And he goes, before you do anything, I have you know, this house is surrounded by 40 armed officers. And it turns out the person he brought in with him was a police officer he supposedly had a grudge with, who was basically his one contact in the local area, who knew who he was. And he's there with pistol drawn already. Birdie has pulls his pistol out, and it's already cocked, and is when it was in his pocket, ready to fire, as Watson has done multiple times throughout the previous stories.
Yeah,
I don't like that. And the 7 of them are. There is a moment where several of them look like they're going to try and go for him anyway, but they all surrender. And Birdie and Etty and Etty's father, Herr Shafter, all leave on a specially prepared train for them. The train company has been good enough to actually put on a train just for the 3 of them to get out of Dodge later that day. Which I suppose, given that these just eliminated a big threat to their bottom line in the local area, is a level of gratitude they would reach at this point. I don't know if that would happen nowadays.
Yeah.
Unless it was sort of like a VP. But Birdie Edwards is described as the best of the Pinkerton investigators at this point within the story.
Yeah.
So it's like they didn't cheap out on him, is what they're saying. And he reveals that he'd been actively working against them, like so many of their ones that were murders that became just sort of severe injuries or assaults or like the blowing up of an empty house. He regrets that like the first one they set up that he volunteered for, but was turned down for, that he couldn't stop that because he didn't have enough information on what was happening to stop it.
Yeah.
But he's stymied them repeatedly over the years, and he's now just got basically has just grabbed the Vermissa Lodge and the Scourers by the testicles right now with the number of important members that are now trapped there and arrested. So he and Etty
Not a
get
bad
out
day's
of
work.
Dodge. Yeah, about a year's work, I think, it's overall to get to this point. But yeah, not the day at the end of it probably makes it all feel worth it because he's also got a woman he genuinely loves and who genuinely loves him as well.
Yeah.
So they get out of Dodge. The Scourers, a lot of them go on trial, and numerous of them get the rope, including the boss. But Ted Baldwin is one of the ones who doesn't get the rope and just gets prison and labor.
Yeah.
So years later, he comes for Birdie Edwards, and Etty has died in the meantime. She caught an illness of some sort, and has since passed away. Which is how he met Birdie, aka Jack, aka Douglas, as came to meet Barker, and then he learnt that Baldwin was out and was looking for him, so that's why he fled to England. And Sherlock, after this bit of the narrative is done, and we learn that Sherlock theorizes that Baldwin, of course, being adept at secret society nonsense, and managed to get into contact with Moriarty, and that's how they were able to locate Douglas.
And he says to him, "Mate, you need to leave."
Yeah, we shift back to the main narrative, where we learn that Douglas has been cleared of murder and manslaughter. It has been ruled self-defense for what happened to Baldwin.
Well, it was.
And Sherlock has basically sent off a message immediately going, "Look, mate, you need to go. If they've got in contact," he doesn't mention Moriarty, but he implies that the forces that allowed Baldwin to find him are still out there and will go after him just to complete the job, because it doesn't do Moriarty's reputation any good if this man that he's been contracted to see killed isn't killed.
Yeah.
And then it skips a bit, and to Watson saying that they'd received a message, or like it being reported that that's the wrong thing. There it is. Just go to the end to see if I can find the exact wording I want for this. That's too far down. That's the epilogue. Get him out of England at any cost, Holmes wrote to his wife. There are forces here which may be more dangerous than those he has escaped. There is no safety for your husband in England. 2 months had gone by. The case had to some extent passed from our minds. Then one morning there came an enigmatic note slipped into our letterbox. "Dear me, Mr. Holmes, dear me," said this singular epistle. There was neither superscription nor signature. I laughed at the quaint message, but Holmes showed unwanton seriousness. Devilry, Watson. And he said with a clouded brow. Oh, uh, later that night, Mrs. Hudson had brought a man up, or the night before, Mrs. Hudson had brought a man up who wanted to see him, a messenger, and it was Mr. Cecil Barker, who said that he had bad news for Mr. Holmes, and Douglas had mysteriously gone overboard on the ship they were on.
And it's like mysteriously overboard. Fuck, it was Moriarty.
Yeah. Yeah, and they got the final cable. That's what they called it. The telegram message. It's Jack has been lost overboard in gale off St. Helen. No one knows how accident occurred. Ivy Douglas, so his wife, saying that, and Sherlock is he's fuming, but he's sort of saying that he now feels that the confrontation between him and Moriarty is very near.
Yeah, and this would be leading into the final problem.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yes. The Pinkertons were the good guy. Pinkerton was portrayed as a good guy for union busting, but to be fair, this union was a union of murder. Dun dun dun! Lightning crashing in the background.
Yeah.
Well,
it's still I still think it's kind of telling that he cast the Pinkerton agents as the good guy and the evil workers union as the murder gang.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I looked into just bits of like the Pinkertons' history, and they were founded as sort of a private police force to allow businesses to have a greater control over their workers. There was a brief period in which, looking back at it, they almost seemed like they were working on the side of good because Pinkerton agents stopped an assassination attempt on President-elect Lincoln and performed acts of espionage against Confederate forces and provided intel on Confederate troop numbers.
So they were the good guys at precisely one point in history.
Yeah, and then immediately sort of went back to their union busting work. And well, it's not like said in any of the things I was able to find, like on official information. I have heard tales of that Pinkertons were involved in hunting down slaves that ran away or were made free, but that were reclaimed. But I somewhat doubt that's going to be on any of the official information they put out.
Yeah.
And it would also be a relatively short period of their history doing that, because they were founded in 1850 and then the slaves were freed after the Civil War. That's when did the American Civil War freedom?
18 I think it was sometime the 1860s. I think.
Under slavery in the United States. 1865. So 15 years of their history where that possibly happened. I would say probably during the Civil War, probably not doing that so much, unless that was cover for their espionage, but I'm not going to grant them the benefit of the doubt on that at offhand. Yeah. Bernie Edwards is a funny name. It's also not actually the name it was, as it was Birdie, as in I'm like a bird.
Birdie Edwards.
Birdy.
Yeah. Although I think on the whole I enjoyed this one more than frankly, most of them lately because of the structure. And I mean, it's like I can't decide whether I like this one in particular or I just liked A Study in Scarlet and I'm feeling a little nostalgic.
Yeah, it was interesting. Oh yeah, one detail I said we'd go back to if we didn't actually go to. The reason why Jack McMurdo's forgeries, no one could tell whether they were forgeries or not, was because they weren't. He basically had a trunk full of dollar coins to give out as part of his cover.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, so
those would be convincing fakes, all right. Just use the real ones.
yeah, yeah,
Why can't we just use the real
yeah.
money? Because we obtained it legally. Do you want to be criminals or not?
Yeah,
That's a reference to something Seb put in a script once.
yeah, but yeah, it's an interesting story. I think like the break of like the two separate narratives that are linked and like is a fun device literarily. It's the fun literary device that works. I will say I'm glad that he didn't try to do every story in this style because I think that would have been quite unbearable in the long run.
Yeah, like I like these, but I wouldn't have wanted it every time. Like it's like I like some of the short stories, but like there are too many of them that feel very samey for my liking, and I wouldn't have wanted
Yeah,
that, but with this because it would have been interminable.
yeah. And also, I think Arthur Conan Doyle would have run out of American organizations that he could get any information on
Yeah,
quite quickly.
yeah,
That he cast as villains or heroes, because yeah, he had the Church of Latter Day Saints, aka the Mormons, the Stonemasons slash Freemasons, and the Pinkertons.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, it's an interesting story. It does contain some of like the old favorite tropes of Arthur Conan Doyle, which is they're not really dead; they're hidden
yeah.
in look, secret compartment big enough for a person. Because that what happened
Like
twice in Return of Sherlock Holmes.
if this were 10 years ago, I might make the joke of I fed Sherlock Holmes into an AI and here's what came out. But that joke isn't funny in 2026.
No, because people do put Sherlock Holmes into an AI, and we do see what comes out.
Yeah, and it's probably not even it's not this good.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, that's um, yeah, the Norwood Builder and uh, what was it? The Golden Pasnay both had the secret compartment, with one having they're not actually dead,
yeah,
and in it, which were story 2 and story 10 of the Return of Sherlock Holmes. Yeah,
yeah,
and then there was also an underfloor hiding space in the second stain as well.
yeah,
But to be honest, in the hiding space, like a hidden hiding space for valuables, which also appeared in the naval treaty as well, uh, is not so much just a trope of Arthur Conan Doyle, but is a trope of sort of mystery writing as a whole, and is a somewhat foundational pillar of mystery writing. Because it'd be a lot harder to have a mystery if clues were not hidden in like safes or false panels and such.
yeah.
Yeah, but
All in all, though, I would actually put this like in my top 10, top 5 even,
yeah,
because I did quite enjoy it.
I'm hoping that's top 5 stories overall and not top 5 novels,
Oh
because
God,
that would be
no!
slightly insulting.
It
Because that would
wouldn't.
be slightly insulting if you just said top 5 novels, because there's a chance that there's just a place of blank. No, this is my average appreciation of a novel, because there's only 4 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Top five
No.
Sherlock. Oh no.
Top 5 Sherlock Holmes novels by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle,
Top five.
not the
I
parody.
meant maybe top five Sherlock Holmes stories. Well, maybe not top five.
Yeah,
Maybe top 10. I don't know. It's it's a pretty good one. Is my point.
yeah. It does certainly have like it twists and it turns like a twisty turny thing,
Yeah.
and it's granted with like the second half being set in a completely different country, a couple of decades earlier. There is a certain lack of information that means we can't necessarily figure it out immediately. Like, who's going to jump from just the first half, like at the murder, to say, "Ah, yes, this has something to do with the Freemasons and the Pinkertons."
Yeah.
Yeah, in a valley that doesn't exist in real life in America. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. The Missa Valley got nicknamed the Valley of Fear because everyone was scared of the Scourers. Everyone could also have been scared of the Scousers, but they wouldn't have been committing as much murder, just trying to figure out what they're saying half the time.
Oh.
Yeah. I know I'm probably being a bit unfair there to Scousers, but
I've never met
but
an
if you
unpleasant Scouser. I will say that.
yeah
They're
they
lovely
just
people.
sound they just like the accent in particular just sounds like they might be out of
Mind you, my first
out of phrase.
experience with that particular stereotype was the Harry Enfield sketch, The Scousers.
Yeah, it's just sort of like everyone I've met's absolutely lovely, but the accent and the local dialect suggest almost like to some people it's just like are they threatening me? I'm not entirely sure what they're saying. Then again, the same can also be said for Cockney. Though that one does have a lot more of what on earth are they saying? I need to try and figure out what on earth the rhyming slang is. Whereas in Somerset, actually, the stereotype of that I've encountered of people have of people with Somerset accents is we're a bit simple.
Yeah.
And also a certain amount of inbreeding. So that's because we're a rural community. That is the rules. If it's a rural accent, you assume inbreeding.
And or cannibalism, depending on the genre.
Yeah. There's just sort of
Hello,
like
Torchwood.
you
What
also
are you doing here?
yeah
uh,
yeah, but yeah, it was just no. I think it would be hilarious if like the modern Scouser accent and dialect was encountered in late 19th century America in a midwestern town.
Yeah.
Because the culture shock of that would they would probably assume they're being invaded from the culture shock of that. But yeah, but we enjoyed the story. I will say the one sort of mark I have against it that doesn't appear in other stories so much is the feeling that Sherlock Holmes is bluffing about how much he actually knows of the case, and is sort of like when Watson would ask afterwards, "So you figured all that?" Of course, Watson. Of course, Watson. I did. It was elementary. Pipe doesn't expand on how he figured it out, unlike every other time he would expand on it.
Yeah. He loves explaining his process.
Yeah.
If he ever doesn't do that, it means there wasn't one.
Yeah, he does explain various parts of it. like the figuring out of the wet clothes. Like there would be a load of clothes down there. He explained we didn't go into. How we figured out about the priest hole. Yet we did cover and that, but sort of like who the man is, why, who's hiding in the priest hole, and why they're hiding it. It feels like he can't know, and he doesn't know, and he sort of that fact sort of being glossed over, as opposed to in Studying Scarlet, where again we have the travels to America. He figures out a lot of details about the man in question as to his motivations and how he's doing it. We actually see him figure out how he's persuading them to do it, and like he knows the motivations, and he's also figured out that there is a link to Utah, Salt Lake City, and the Church of Latter-day Saints as well.
Yeah.
Now, then again, that's slightly easier when both victims are Americans from Utah, with connections to Salt Lake City, being from there, and therefore it's highly likely they are Mormon.
Indeed.
Yeah. So that. Yeah, but especially at the time, given they founded it. But yeah.
Arthur Conan Doyle
So,
was a baffling man.
yes. I'm going to bring this up again because it came up in when we did the study of Scarlet. Brigham Young's grandson met Arthur Conan Doyle to criticize him about his depiction of the Church of Latter-day Saints in A Study in Scarlet. And apparently, according to Brigham Young's grandson, whose name I cannot remember offhand, Doyle apologized to him for his depiction of Mormons. Now, he only came out to say about this apology after Conan Doyle passed away.
Yeah.
Am I going to trust the one who benefits from the description that Conan Doyle apologized for his depiction after the only other person who could contradict him passed away?
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Yeah, no, it is suspicious. But there is also an zero chance he did do it. It's because this is a man who also caused, as Seb is fond of saying, it caused Houdini to end their friendship because he would not believe that Houdini didn't have magical powers. Yeah, and so who knows?
Yeah.
Oh, what?
As I say, baffling man.
What was that thing I said the other day? God, I wish fairies. I know they're not real, but I wish fairies were real so I could spray them with a can of Raid. And then the first reply, Houdini to his wife after
an exhausting dinner with Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yeah. Because, yeah, the man seemed to be a headache. Yeah, like he's famous for writing like what is viewed as the epitome of fictional detectives, and he despised the character. The work he actually enjoyed is not remembered. He's remembered more for his fairies than the work he actually enjoyed writing, which probably annoys him a large amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he took Kodak saying, "Look, we can't show that we don't have the technology to prove that these are fakes, but obviously they're fakes, as proof that fairies were real." This is just look, we can't prove they're fakes, but it's obvious, isn't it? And then he goes, "Proof of fairies." God, I'm now suddenly imagining him as like the teacher from Fairy Odd Parents. And the one who's obsessed with fairies and just...
Oh, yeah. Fairy Odd Parents!
Yeah.
Oh, the name escapes me, but I did used to watch that show.
yeah, just sort of like no, the name everyone remembers from that show is Dinkelberg,
Dinkelberg.
which was which was the father's arch nemesis. Who deliberately leaned into it and created a full villain layer, so that Mr. Turner could be right. It was like, why did he do this, Dinkelberg? It makes your father happy. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Uh, right. Anyway, so yeah,
Yeah,
The Valley of Fear, pretty good book. Pretty good. Pretty good. Uh,
yeah,
his Last
and I
Bow is the
believe
next one, which is actually his penultimate bow.
yes, again, like his last bow is another collection of stories. I believe. I think, however, there are only 8 of them.
We could do 2
Um,
lots of 4, I suppose.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. The last one in that his last bow, the wall service of Sherlock Holmes is going to be very different. I feel to the rest of them because I feel it's going to be a account of what Sherlock Holmes did in the First World War, or
oh Lord.
ostensively. Yeah. But yeah, well, we'll find out when it comes to that.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible, given that Sherlock and what, given Sherlock and Watson's age in the story, that it's something that happens in England, not in the trenches, as as opposed to J.R.R. Tolkien, who was in the trenches.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah, next in 2 weeks we will be getting on to his Last Bow.
yeah.
uh,
Oh, I'm actually going to say it's probably going to be a divide of 3 and 4, because his last this collection was where the Adventure of the Cardboard Box got put when it finally released,
oh, I see.
which we did,
We've already done that
which we
one.
did,
Yeah.
yeah, we did at the point at which it was actually released, as that
Yeah.
was where it was in my collection and on the audiobooks.
Yeah. Well, let's do 4 of them next week, and then give us an easier one to finish on.
Yeah, or 4 of them in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
because
in 2 weeks, because next week we have Animorphs: The Message. For
yes, which is oh god, I've just forgotten her name.
K.A. Applegate.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking perspective character.
Oh, right, it's Cassie.
Cassie. Yes. I was thinking Casey because of all the damn case nonsense from earlier.
Yeah.
It's just so cool that there's Casey.
Yeah.
So that's from the first one from Cassie's
Yep. And
perspective. And it should be interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember this one particularly. Mind you, I won't spoil it, but something happens, which means you're probably not going to forget that this book happened.
Yeah.
Um,
And then we'll be back tomorrow for Assassin Sunday, actually on Sunday,
yeah,
with Ghost of Yotei,
yeah,
the continuing adventures of Lady Baskethead, the second Laundry Ronin.
uh-huh. And I also ostensibly do Yakuza / Like a Dragon on Mondays with my other co-host Mora, and I more regularly do Final Fantasy on Tuesdays for Tombre Tuesday with the same person. I've been neglecting the Yakuza one as of late because, well, I've just never happened to be feeling up to it. And also, as much as I like the Yakuza games, the latest ones are very cutscene heavy, and it's not great for streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, that's my game output. For books, we have Animorphs next week, His Last Bow the week after. And
Yeah.
yeah, Hope.
And then the weekend, and then the week after that, we will be taking a break from streaming because none of us are available. Yeah,
Is
that
it that
snuck up on us,
soon?
didn't it? Yeah, it's the 25th today.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Um,
That up, didn't it?
it did. It did. Yeah. Right. Well. I've got to sort out getting there. But yes, we're going to a convention the third weekend, so
Yeah.
yeah, that'll be why we're not there. But yeah, thanks for listening. We
Yeah.
hope you've enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time. Good night.